All right, all right. All right, okay. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the planet. Uh, Welcome to the Message Mapping Workshop. My name is Chris Rushlow. I am here with my colleague and cohort, Dr. Nick Lucas,
Hello.
and we are going to have some fun over the next few days. Can you guys hear me and see me and hear us and see us? Thank you, Sean says hello. Yep. Okay, Ricky, appreciate you, bud. All right, we've got some familiar faces on here. Sean, just saw you come through today. Had to add you to everything right on. Ricky, Sean, Trusha, good to see ya. All right. Michael, good to see you in here. Abdullah, Peter, Kelly, good to see you in here again, bud. All right. Steven, yes, yes, yes. I love it. Lots of feedback. Hey, Martina, Murray. Hey, bud. All right. Marco, hey, hey. Matt, good to see you got on. Glad we got that fixed for you. All right, Greg from New Zealand. Yep. Good to see you in here again, Greg. All right. You're welcome. All right. Talia from Melbourne. Okay. All right. From Melbourne. How many Aussies do we have in the house? Go ahead and tell me Aussie in the chat. If you, unless you already did, Trusha from, New Zealand. We got a couple of New Zealanders. From Belgium, Patrick, right on. Michael from Germany. Aussie in Sydney here. All right, Murray.
Right.
All right, all right. Abdul, UK. All right, Eduardo from France. Yes, yes. All right, from Serbia, Mark. All right, Marco. Sorry, Marco. Sorry, it cut off there when I had to pull out the screen a bit. Okay. Not Aussie, but Austria. Ah, Alexandra. Okay. Well, funny enough, Dr. Nick was just, who's an Aussie down in
I
Sydney,
am. I am.
was just in Austria. I guess there's actually a sign there that says, like, you got on the wrong plane if you're looking for Australia, like it's a joke in the airport, and they're like, turn around, you came to the wrong place. All right. Mike Ox, hey bud, just got audio. Idaho seems relatively benign compared to the rest of the world. Yeah. Let's go. We have a t-shirt, no kangaroos in Austria. That's hilarious. All right, everyone. It's good to see we have a great a really good crowd. This is probably we've maxed out on our new business owners and members. And we obviously have a handful of you who joined for the second and third and fourth, and some of you maybe even fifth time this time. So good to see all of you back here as well. I think that says something for those of you who have been here before that you choose to follow along and come back and pay to be here again to go through it a second and a third time. I think that speaks to the message and what we have and the process that we've put together for you, being able to go through it live together. And yeah, Mike, fourth time. See that, guys? Yeah, Mike, if you could probably just let us know um, if this has helped your business in any way, just kind of like, has it worked for you, and anybody else who's been here as well. That's the last thing I'd love to do is if you could just post in here, what this did for you in the past, if you've been through the message mapping workshop before, just so those who are new can see it and gives them a little bit more, less skepticism where they go, all right, we're here. What you got, Abdullah, I've watched a previous recording that's already helped us tremendously. Very cool. Yeah, there is a handful of you that bought the recordings of this a while back. And of course, we promised that you could join along with us live to get coaching. But some of you have been through this process watching the recordings already. And so you're more than welcome to do your test, and we'll also coach you on your elements through this stuff as well. And every single workshop's a little bit different, right? There's different things that come up. There's different questions that lead into different lessons and different things we talk about. Obviously, things are moving fast. There's going to be some differences in some of the stuff that we teach on the backside of the test for you guys in order to set you up for success. So with all that, we're going to jump right into it. We're already 7 minutes past the hour, but can't jump into it yet. Look at this. Oh my goodness, this is beautiful. Look at this, Nick.
Right.
I
Read it
watched.
out loud.
Okay, Stephen, where did you? Okay, Marco, reading your ads alone helped me improve. Plus 5D ads over delivered. Love to hear it. That's me. I didn't watch the recording. Tell you, sadly, I have to leave early. Are we able to get these recordings? Absolutely. So, a few quick housekeeping things for you guys. Once we finish these sessions, I just have to let it render and then we upload it to the course. So, in your codemethodology.com/programs, in your back office where you should have access to the course where it has the getting started info as well as the few bonus videos that we've got there for you. We will be uploading new lessons and modules every day. We will be getting the recording there right after it's uploaded and rendered, usually an hour to 2 hours after we finish the live session, just because it has to be rendered and then uploaded and all that. And so that'll be there for you to follow along. And then obviously we are monitoring the Facebook group. So some of you are not in there yet. And if you do, just, let me know. And I'll be putting the link to the Facebook group in the chat. Don't ask me for it. I'll be putting it in there. So there's been some weird stuff. Obviously, Facebook has weird stuff around how many people can click that link, the access link, and then they turn it off after 20 people. And you guys know that, some of you who've ran your own groups. And so sometimes I have to redo that. And so we've had a lot of people register. So sometimes it just maxes out and then the link doesn't work. It's a weird thing. So I'm going to put another fresh one in here for those of you who have not accessed the Facebook group yet. But the good news is we monitor that group. We're here for essentially 4 weeks for you. We're doing the live test through 2 weeks, and then there's a couple of weeks where we're just monitoring it, answering your questions, helping you out. You may encounter other challenges once you put your test together that we can just help you out with. And so that's the process here. So you'll have access to the recordings 1 to 2 hours, usually, unless it's a really long recording that we kept on going and it takes a little longer to render. It might be 3 hours, but it's always uploaded same day. You can ask your questions in the group if you don't get them asked here. And it's totally up to you guys if you feel more comfortable us coaching you live here, or if we just give you feedback in the group. You don't have to come out here and be spotlighted if you don't want to, but if you do, totally fine. And of course, I know some of you are love a good performance. Some of you are going to come out here and make the entertainment value even better for all of us. So, um, all right, looking at that, client still runs the ad from last fall at 3.7 car all or CTR all and near 5 ROAS, 750 spend per day. Sean, my guy. Isn't that awesome, right? Michael went from a 2-year dry spell off Facebook ads not working to getting it to work again. This was 1.5 years ago. Each time it's taken is where it's been new material and it has recharged my business. There you go. Um, yeah, see? Cool stuff. Okay, so guys, let's get into it. We've got about 35 participants or so right now in the on the call. Obviously, another one just hopped on. Watch the recordings for all of the housekeeping. We're just getting started now. And we've got a handful of our code members here, as well as past workshop members. And then we've almost maxed out on our business on our members that came in new for the first time. So we got a full house. So with that, guys, I want to introduce you to my colleague and partner, Dr. Nick Lucas. And, Nick, he actually joined one of my first workshops. And I won't steal all of his thunder because he has a bit of a story he tells, but eventually he came to me and was like, hey, I don't know how much you do this whole PBC process, but it works so well every time I do it. And I was like, I almost took it for granted because we used it so much. I didn't even think of it as a special thing that was like, hey, this is a thing that helps you find the best message like every time based on the data. Like it's almost bulletproof. I mean, yes, you can mess it up if you really do not know what you're doing, but that's why we're here. So with that, I'm going to turn it on over to the doctor and let all of you experience his genius and his brilliance and how he's put this together, because he has taken this further than me in terms of being able to organize it properly to really allow people who are even new to our entire philosophy be able to go through this test with us and have it make complete sense. So with that, on over to the doctor.
All right. First thing is, am I coming through okay? Is my audio working? Chris, hello?
Oh yeah, I hear you.
Oh, it
Yes,
is.
I was letting them.
Are you all right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see. I close up the chat. Fantastic. Well, hello, everyone. What a great crowd. And special welcome to my fellow Aussies and also Belgium. I've been there once. There's someone I saw from Belgium popped up, and I've been there is because of hang on, an update just popped up. I want to remind me later. I've been to Boom because I went to Tomorrowland, which is the best EDM music festival. I took my 19-year-old son there because he turned 18 during COVID, and we couldn't go. It was for his birthday, so we went when he was 19, and I absolutely loved it. So we're going back. Um, I like Belgium. Right, so let's kick into this. So what I'm going to do with you all is I've got a Google Doc I walk through. So we do it slightly different. Well, I do at least. No big fancy slideshow, because what I want to walk you through is just the process. What we're going to do, orient you to everything. Today's the introduction, but I won't steal the thunder of the Google Doc. I'm going to go ahead and share it here. All right. So for everyone, Chris, you can maybe tell me too, is that all coming through, and does that need to be larger for people?
Maybe one, yeah, maybe go up to 200%
Give it a
on
shot.
that. Makes it so there it is. Okay.
You good? All
Yeah.
right. Okay. So this is what we're going to work through. And all I'm going to say at the outset is that you guys are going to have such a blast over the next 2 weeks. You're going to have to rewire some stuff in your brain, and that's totally okay. Some of you are going to just slip right into this. It's going to make sense. Some of you are going to find this, a bit counterintuitive, or just a new way of thinking, and that's why we're here as well. So if you get stuck on things, etc., that's why we've got the coaching and not just the course, because it's during the coaching that you get aligned with exactly what we're going to do here. So a bit about me and how I came to work with Chris. My background is in neuroscience and human behavior change. So I lectured in neuroscience at university for 10 years. I've done a lot in psychology of human behavior change. And even though that might seem um, different from marketing, it's actually not, because it actually all relates to this thing here, the brain. I'm sure you can see it. The brain and getting people to change their behavior is exactly what ads do. And I was doing my best to try and use ads to get people to change, as in go down a funnel, say yes. And my best often wasn't good enough. It was a challenge on Facebook. I'd owned an agency. We'd done things for other people. I've been through the experience of having, in one particular case, lost a company, and it wasn't the only reason, but a key reason was because the agencies we hired to run ads, and our attempt at doing it didn't work, and that's essentially that's what's at stake. So when I came across Chris's ad in my newsfeed, it was after that situation, and so I wasn't a hungry crowd for learning about Facebook ads. I was an angry crowd about Facebook, right? So not hungry, but angry. And nevertheless, after about an hour and a half of clicking on an ad and watching a webinar and forking out thousands of dollars to get the beginning of Chris's training, and then I went through and bought all of the stuff he did, applied it all. And I will say it once, if I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times too. I'm so jealous I didn't come up with this process myself, because it is so directly scientific that as a scientist, you would have thought I'd have come up with it, but no, I didn't. And the reason is this: I just did not go as granular as we're going to go in the training, right? So anyway, so that's the background there. I've said most of that. And just to let you know too, here's the really good thing about what we're doing here. A lot of the time when you're running ads, you're sitting there and you've got to go, I've got to come up with another angle. I've got to come up with other creative. I'm not sure what's going to work. I'm not sure what to write on my ads. And it's literally throwing shit up against a wall to see what sticks. And this is the opposite of that. And that's why you're going to enjoy it so much, because it gives you a reliable, repeatable process that you can do over and over again if you need to find the best messaging. But as you've seen, one of the attendees commented before, the messaging that they discovered during the PBC process is still working months or years later, and we've definitely seen that happen. So we are going to move fast through this workshop, because the key thing that we want you to have is the skill to do the process. because that's the main thing. We want to transfer this skill to you. Once you've got the skill, you can do it again and get better and better at it. We don't want you to try and make the skill so perfect that you then don't complete the process, right? So the most important thing is you go through the process over the 2 weeks so that by the end of the 2 weeks, you have acquired the skill. And this is why I've got here, trying to be perfect will fail you. And I've now added the big thing word there, guaranteed. It's guaranteed to fail you if you try to be perfect. So yes, you're going to not get one of the elements right. Yes, you're going to write a headline that's too long or something like that. There's going to be these issues that'll crop up as we go. We're going to do our best to steer you in the direction that you get a very successful outcome here. And the reason we're going to be good at doing that is this isn't our first rodeo. We've run this workshop a lot and we've seen the kinds of things that happen where people get sidetracked. But even if you get sidetracked, the most important thing is that you get the skill, right? So we're also after speed of implementation. So that's why, aside from today, which is this introductory day, tomorrow, you'll have homework to do tonight, and then tomorrow you are going to be launching your first test, right? Or you're going to be ready to launch your first test, and we'll walk through. But we're going to give you those skills from A to Z. You need to have them all wrapped up. So what we're going to cover today is how the 2 weeks are structured to maximize your skills and the results you get. We're going to go over the ad structure and the terminology that we use and the elements that we're going to be testing. I'm going to give you some examples of PBC tests so you can actually see where you're going and the kinds of things to expect and the results we've got. We're going to go over the first test. So there's 3 tests to do, but we're really going to go and focus just on the first test because that's what you're going to launch tomorrow. So the first test is for the pains you'll be testing. Just the note here is that for PBC2 benefits and the PBC3, the challenges, they are coming toward the end of this week and early next week. And that's one of the slight differences we're doing this workshop around. But don't worry, it is all coming and it's all going to come at exactly the right time for you as we go through it. Today, we're also going to I'm going to show you a spreadsheet I've put together to help you extract the elements for testing, and you'll get a link to a spreadsheet, and that's going to be the homework for you to do tonight, is actually extracting the elements you'll need to test. And I'm going to touch on how I've been using ChatGPT to help with the process, just to speed it up. But this is definitely a human intelligence combined with artificial intelligence thing. We cannot make it run just on AI alone. And then we'll go over your homework. Tomorrow, what we're going to cover is how to set up your tests in Ad Manager. We're going to talk about ad copy and creative tomorrow. We'll go over your budgets, CPMs, and impressions for you to look at. So if you've got questions about that today, we're not covering it. Tomorrow is when we cover this. So you'll be absolutely clear. And then also how to determine the winner. And for a lot of you, you'll get it launched tomorrow, and some of you might be the day after, depending where you are in the world. All right, so I'm just going to shrink this down a bit. Back here. So here's how the 2 weeks are structured, just so you're very clear. You can see it's Monday. Well, it's Monday in the US at least. So intro today. Tomorrow, we'll go over how to set up your PBC1, and many of you, if not all of you, will launch your PBC1 test. This is testing for pains. You'll need to let that run for 2 days, but depending on ad approvals and things like that, we allow 3 days for that to happen. That also means if you don't get your PBC1 launched tomorrow, you've still got 2 days to get it launched, approved, and let the test run. So then by the end of Thursday, you'll be getting those results coming in. This actually gets really exciting because we're going to ask you to post the results in the Facebook group. And we begin to see the race that happens with the things that you're testing to see which one's going to come out and be the winner. And so everyone starts to report this and we begin to see what's going on, which is great. This is when you're launching those. In the workshop that we run every day, we'll be going over, just answering questions, making sure everyone's got their pains defined as quick, as best as they can. And we'll also be teaching you on Thursday how to do PBC2. So then on Friday, we'll go over that as well. And Friday, then Saturday and Sunday is the days that you'll be running your benefit test, or what we call PBC2. And then by the end of Sunday, early Monday, everyone will be getting their winners. And then we go into, on the next week, on the Monday, how to run your PBC3. So we'll be teaching you that, and you'll be running PBC3, and that will run for that 2 to 3 days. By Thursday, you'll have your results in for the whole entire testing process. And then on Friday, we'll be talking about execution and what to do next. And then, as Chris said, we're going to stay around in the Facebook group for the following 2 weeks to be to answering any questions that you've got and helping you to begin to make some progress there. And so that's the structure and the outline for the next 2 weeks. So you're all clear on what's going on. All right, let's boost this back up again. Yes, the calls next week are at the same time. So for the whole 2-week period. I think just as a housekeeping thing there, if I've got this right, when you've signed up for this Zoom call, it's signed you up for a week of calls. So you're already signed up. It's going to be the same link. When it comes to next week, because there's a 2-day gap, right? And I guess I should have highlighted that here, right? Over this Saturday and Sunday, US time, there is no workshop, right? So we're not doing a call on the Saturday and Sunday because your PBC2 tests are running anyway. We'll still monitor the Facebook group if you've got questions. So no call. Then you'll get a link for next week's Zoom calls, and you'll need to re-register for that so you can get the links and be receiving that. All right. Oh, no, I meant to go up here. Okay, so for this, the key thing, I guess, that sums up everything around code methodology, the full process, which is the 5-dimensional ads, which introduces you to elements, our neurocreative workshop, which gets the images to set context. We're now using scientific testing to actually know exactly which elements to use. And then later on, if you do code methodology, learning the entire full process, context is everything. Right? This is the thing that I've actually understood much clearer after going through this with Chris and seeing just how important it is to set context, how powerful it is to set context as a specific aim when writing ads. Going, how much context am I setting? You could have 500 words and set very little context, or you could have 500 words in an ad and set a ton of context. And the more context you set, especially as it relates to what's relevant to the person, the better the ads do. But the thing is that Chris's approach to ads is much more than context. We're going to be going over social rules of engagement. I think, Chris, is that somewhere? Is that in the, following week or something, all right? You're going to learn, and we can talk about things that'll come up, say how you go from $100 per day ad set to $500 per ad set to then $5,000 or $50,000 per ad set, right? And what gets you there is context. But there's a bunch of button pressing and organizing within Ads Manager that helps you take that journey. And I mean, Chris is awesome at this stuff here. You know, it's what he's just so good at. But even better at this stuff, he's great at context. That's what I'm saying. Context is the foundation that everything rests on. There are 9 contextual elements included in a full Epic ad. And the 3 we're going to test in the workshop are the pain, the benefit, and under the benefit, there are actually 2 sub-elements, if you want to call it. There's the specific benefit and the ultimate benefit. And we'll go through what they are as we lead you through the testing. But those are important there. And then the 3rd benefit here is the challenge, right? Now, there is a 4th element that we sometimes test in the tests we're going to do. Sometimes. Right? And sometimes we refer to the person's something that they identify with in our phrase, right? So it could be something as simple as women. It could be business owners. It could be coaches. It could be super mums. It doesn't have to relate to the demographic. It doesn't have to relate to what they do. It could be relating to the kinds of things they believe or are fans of. And so sometimes it may make more sense for you to include this fourth common bond element, but you don't have to. And so sometimes you don't have to use a common bond at all. It will kind of depend on just what your offer is and whether it makes sense. And that's the kind of thing that we need to talk about with you, I guess, in the Facebook group, or if you come on the live hot seat with us, just to go over that. We've got 2 objectives. To get you skilled in the element testing process. That is the key objective. So you walk away from this knowing how to run a test. And we also, of course, if you run it according to how we help you do it, and you follow the instructions, you follow the process, you don't try and change it or modify it, you follow it step by step, you will get results for which elements work best for your offer. So not only are you going to learn it, you'll actually get the results. And that's what's going to happen. We look forward to seeing that. What this is not how to write a full epic ad, because there's absolutely no way we can teach that in 2 weeks, and it's far too valuable. The way we price this program is very low compared to what we teach and what we do in our other programs. And quite a few of you, when you come through this process, will see how this can help your business, and will obviously want to go forward and then learn and join us in the full code methodology program, because it will make absolute financial sense for you to do so. Others of you won't, and that's absolutely fine. And what you're going to learn in this workshop is still going to carry you forward and get you much better results in your business. Here's another thing that can take people a little bit to get their head around. We are not going to be measuring conversions during this test, whether it's leads or whether it's sales. That is what we absolutely focus on in code methodology. So just get clear, when the key thing we want you to learn is the testing process, and we're not going over conversions, right? I'll explain why. We're primarily looking at the CTR all of your ads, because if you can't get this part right, that's why you will struggle to get conversions. We have to do the testing to get the messaging right, so you know what to write the ads about, so you can have outrageously good conversions, which is what this is all about. So an analogy for CTR all on an ad, right, which is the total number of clicks it gets, it's a little bit like an email subject line open rates, right? In this way, if people don't open your email, it doesn't matter how good your offer is or how transformative what you sell is. If they never open their email, this is how many sales you will make: 0, right? And so the most important thing is getting people to open email. And so with your CTR all on your ad, the most important part of it is this part we're teaching you over the next 2 weeks, because even though we've got this great process for writing a full ad, if they never read and engage with the full ad, then that is why you just end up getting a lot of junk traffic clicking through onto websites. Conversion rates aren't that great. The whole feedback loop doesn't work properly, and that's why so many people struggle. This is absolutely crucial to get, right? So this is talking from someone who's had an agency, who's had a company, lost a company with a big part of that because we didn't get this bit, right? We just didn't get this. And none of the agencies we hired got it either. This is how crucial. It can be the difference between a company continuing on or not, right? Later on, we will look at CTR link click-through, but that does come later. The key thing we're going to be measuring is CTR all. What's really good about that, of course, is it's measured right there in your Facebook Ads Manager dashboard. We can easily see it. You can easily see what's winning, and this is what we're going to track over the course of the test. Okay, here's the caveat. No promises, right? So I have often achieved results, and I mean sales conversions, during testing. So I set up a test, and I'll give you just one example. I've got a client, a friend of mine out here, who has a $6,500 offer and had not been able to get any results from Facebook at all in the past, even though had 2 different agencies have a go at it. They'd managed to get a few booked calls, but the booked calls were terrible leads. During testing, sales were made at $6,500, which more than covered the cost that I charged to run the test, and away you go. So we don't promise that. I don't promise that. It's not the goal, remember. The goal is just to really test CTR all. But for those of you who have an offer that's up and running and maybe some results already, this could absolutely happen, because of course we want this. Who wouldn't want results? It's not the primary aim, folks. Defining your winning elements is the primary aim of this workshop, because as you've seen from those comments before, these can last you for months and sometimes years, discovering which elements work, right? Everything else flows from there, from these elements. Okay, ad structure and terminology. So this is key. So please just make sure you pay attention to this. The first 2 to 3 lines of your ad copy, we call it the above creative headline. And if you want to correlate it with an epic ad, this is the engage part of an epic ad, the E part. It's the first 2 to 3 lines of your ad copy, right? The full text. And I'll show you an example so we're all clear about it. With the creative, what we're referring to there is the image that you were going to use. And just a note here, we don't want people clicking your ad primarily because of the image, especially during testing, because context matters and we want the words to actually carry the click, the context to carry the click, and we don't necessarily want the image to do it. So we're not going to be getting you to get like images that are emotive and really trying to get people, because we want the words to do the heavy lifting, right? That's what's going to happen. So the creative, you're going to be choosing one image, and we'll go over that when we get to the image part. The actual headline, where Facebook calls it the headline, we refer to this as the below creative headline because it's underneath the creative. And as you'll see, we want this below creative headline to mimic the above creative headline. So the first 2 to 3 lines of your ad copy. The ad copy is the rest of the copy, okay? And at this stage, we're just going to need some basic ad copy in there in the rest of the ad for to use. And again, you'll see examples of that, and we'll show you how to do that. But here's the thing I want you to, like a penny dropping moment. Your PBC test at the end, so in 10 days from now, whenever it is, when you've got your winning elements, this is what will tell you what your ad copy actually needs to be about. Because a lot of the times you write your ad copy, you think, I'm thinking like a copywriter, oh yeah, I'm going to have to do this, I'm going to write this whole thing out, and we go for it, which is fine, that's good. But what's so much better now is that when you have your winning elements, it will tell you what your ad copy needs to be about. You'll know what to write your ad about because of these elements. So any basic ad copy you have now, of course, is going to need to change once you have finished the PBC test, because it will tell you what you need to write it about. And you'll see that as we go through. So here's an example. And I might just shrink this down so it fits in screen. All right. So here is an example screenshot of a full above creative headline and a mimic below, right? So you can see how business owners go from workaholic to a strong financial position despite past incompetent advice. Okay, so you can see the 4 elements that are there, because we've got business owners, and we did use that in this case as a common bond. So that's 4 pieces of context in that above creative headline. And you might look at that and go, okay, well, you know, that's an interesting headline. Every single one of those red, except for business owners, because that's what we went with, but workaholic, strong financial position, and past incompetent advice, the only reason they're in there is because they won the test. And there's no way of knowing that they were going to win the test except by running the test. And that's what we're all going to learn, right? So you can see that's here it is here down on the actual ad, how business leaders go from workaholic to strong financial position despite past incompetent advice. And then this is what we want them to click on, see more, right? Because when they click on this, they get to see the rest of the ad. And to illustrate my point, I now know after doing this testing that I need to talk about being a workaholic in the ad. I need to talk about getting into a strong financial position in the ad. And I need to talk about the fact that these people have had incompetent advice in the past that's either hurt their business or hasn't helped their business. If I don't write about those things, then when people click see more, they're not going to click through. The message isn't going to resonate with them because I'm not unpacking the very combination of words, or I'm not expanding on the context that was set in the headline. And that's the reason they click the ad. And you can see down underneath below, the below creative headline, we have less space to do it, but we've got from workaholic to a strong financial position despite past incompetent advice. So we managed to fit all of the elements except the common bond into this below creative headline. And the reason for this is just to smack people in the head with this message. They get the same message there as they get down here, and that's why they open the ad and they read more, and we do our magic down below. So while I've got this up here, what can anyone notice about this particular ad? What's missing that is usually there in most ads? Let's see if anyone can pick it. 100%. All right, so people have identified it. There is no call to action button. Okay. I don't want learn more or buy now or download now, because buttons are things people click on. and I don't want them to click on it straight away. Chris doesn't want them. It's his magic here that he figured out how to do, and it's become more challenging to do, by the way, which is why we'll have to show you how to make this happen. Getting rid of the button. I want to set context. Learn more doesn't set context, right? I want to put as much context here as I can, and learn more or download now doesn't. And so the way we set these ads up is to get rid of the button so we can set as much context as possible, because what do we want them to do before clicking? We want them to open up the ad, see more, and then read the rest of the ad, right? It's brilliant stuff. I love it. And we see much better results when we remove the button, and we've tested it. Okay, let's go down. I'm going to give you an example of this exact ad. This is just one of the tests, and I want to show you this. So it's not a huge spread. If you cast your eyes over to the right, there's the CTR rule that we're measuring, and you can see that I'll just jump ahead here. On this one, we're actually testing the challenge, because we'd already found the pain and the benefit that were the winner. And so I guess the question is, which ad would you prefer to run? One that says something, you can see here, we've got incompetent advice at the top and skeptical down the bottom. Well, we could have said something like, how business leaders go from workaholic to a strong financial position despite skepticism. We don't know. That could have won. We don't know. But if I come back down here to this, you tell me which, well, you don't have to respond because it's a bit of a rhetorical question, but which ad do you want to run? One that is getting you a CTR roll of 4.36, or one that's getting you a CTR roll of 2.72. Okay, it's not quite double, but I want you to understand the second order effects of having a higher CTR roll. So for every 100 people who were swiping at a rapid pace on their phone past this ad, for this headline, 4.3 of them, or 4.36, clicked on see more to watch the look at the rest of the ad. Whereas down here, only 2.7 people did. This means that your retargeting audience fills up with more people for the same amount of money. So you get a larger retargeting audience. You've pixeled these people. You haven't pixeled them, but inside Facebook you've captured their attention, which means you're the one and not your competitors who gets to show them a retargeting ad. All right? That's the importance of it. Not to mention a higher engagement score here is a positive signal inside of Facebook and actually helps your ad and helps you win auctions. And so it's crucial that you get higher numbers here. That's why Chris really emphasizes CTR all at a beginning point so that you know you're on the right track, right? So that's an example. So now it's your turn to have a guess. So I put this little experiment here. You or your client is a coach for women in business. It's uncertain which angle to focus on or which offer to create, right? They're not sure. So your ideas are around burnout, motivation, anxiety, or imposter syndrome, right? Because you could do any of these. So I want you to type into the chat, which of these, burnout, motivation, anxiety, imposter syndrome, are you going to decide is the best one that's going to get the most engagement to create an offer around and run your business with? We've got imposter syndrome, burnout. Let's go, everyone. Let's get the fingers working. Test all of them. That's all right. Burnout, anxiety, imposter syndrome. And my point that you're all experiencing as you do this is that even if you're typing it in, even if you've typed in motivation and you're pretty sure that's the winner, you don't know. You don't know. And what's more important to let you know this, you don't know which one's going to do best within your ad set and the audience that you choose, right? Because it doesn't mean that another female business coach who runs this is necessarily going to get the same thing. You're in a different tunnel digging for gold than they are. And you need to chip away with the pickaxe at the side of the wall of your tunnel. It's not everyone's tunnel, it's your tunnel. And you've got to find the gold vein in your tunnel, in your audience, in your ad set, with who you are and your brand and how it resonates. That's why you have to test, and these aren't necessarily, you can't extrapolate this across to therefore every business coach. So let's find out what worked. CTR all, imposter syndrome, 14.04%, burnout, 6.8%. Look at the massive spread here. at the difference that none of us, sure didn't know which one was going to do best unless it was tested. All right. And so because of this particular client then developed a webinar around imposter syndrome. We developed an ad around imposter syndrome. She developed a free kind of download for retargeting around imposter syndrome. All because we did this test. Just think about this for a minute as an agency owner or yourself, how useful this data is, knowing this, as opposed to just picking one. I mean, sure, pick one or do this. It changes everything when you can do this, all right? Okay, so next thing you can see at the bottom is, next, you or your client are a publicity firm. You get publicity for folks. And you've got a high ticket offer to train business owners how to get free media exposure through publicity. There has never been any results from Facebook ads, despite agencies trying typical ads. And I want you to look at this. CTR all ranges again from 4.82 all the way down to 2.79. Again, this was our third test, our PBC 3 test, right? And you can see that in terms of the challenge and therefore the final winning combination was again a big difference, 4.82 and a 2.79. And I want to point out that look at here though, on this one we've got 14.4 and 6.8. These are huge numbers compared to these numbers down here. It doesn't really matter. What matters is money in versus money out, and can you make the ads work? And you won't know which one's working best unless you test it, right? Because nothing else worked on this, was the challenge that we used in this ad. Agency fees, you know, could have done it, or getting, anyway, I won't go through what all the details are. I'm just pointing out these are all the ones we tested, and there's the spread. So the question then becomes, how do we build or map our message elements, right? Because if you've been through the 5D ads course, or if you haven't, the fact is you can come up with a whole bunch of pains, but you don't know which one is best. You're going to do better simply by structuring an ad around the elements, absolutely. But still, even doing that, you don't know which of the pains is the best one. Of all the benefits you can come up with for your product or service, you don't know which one is best. Or what I mean by that is which one is going to resonate most with your audience. You don't know. Of all the challenges you can come up with, which one is best? You don't know. I don't know. That's why we have to test. But the real key thing is this, and this is again should be a penny drop for a lot of you. It's not just which pain is best or which benefit is best or which challenge is best. It's which pain works best with which benefit and with which challenge as a combination, right? Again, if we use it, I liken it to a recipe, you can have which of the eggs looks the best one. I'm looking at the flour, which flour in the cupboard looks to be the best flour. And I'm looking at the icing I want to put. Which icing is going to be the best? Or that's actually probably not right. Some other thing that you put in cakes, right? And I'm looking at these three, and I've got the three best ingredients, but I don't have a cake. I've got three best ingredients, but not a cake. So I have to put all of those ingredients to see if it makes the best cake. So what we're doing here is not just finding the best ingredients, we're finding the best ingredients that make the best cake. That's what we're doing. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to brainstorm the pains and benefits and the challenges. And I've just called them here. You might brainstorm 5 pains that your offer or your service helps to correct, fix, solve, relieve, whatever it is. We're going to get you to brainstorm, say, 5 benefits, outcomes, results that people get when they use your product or service. And also, what challenges do they face or have they faced in trying to either solve their pain or get a result? What are the challenges they get? And I want you to really pay close attention to this part, okay? Because maybe pain 2 works best with benefit 4. Do you see here? So you've got pain 2. Maybe that works best when you combine it with benefit 4, okay? But what about the challenge? Maybe pain 2 works best with benefit 4 and challenge 3. So we've got pain 2 working best with benefit 4 and then working best with challenge 3. And here's the thing, maybe pain 2 and benefit 4 with challenge 1 doesn't really work at all. right? But we don't know unless we test. So how can we know this? Welcome to the PBC testing process, right? This is exactly what you are going to learn and be able to achieve, and then be able to repeat over and over and over again. It's so much fun. All right. So PBC process isn't just finding the winning pain, benefit, and challenge. It is finding the winning combination of the pain, benefit, and challenge. And it's the combination that sets the best context, not the individual elements. Right? It's the combination of those. So we start with the elements that we're going to test, right? And that's what we're going to be starting with today. So how do we think about pains, benefits, and challenges? There's a spreadsheet. You're going to get a copy, but I'm going to walk you through how to think about this first. How are we going for time? Looks like we're on track, but I need a sip of water here.
It's because I don't keep interrupting here. You know, I'm letting you do your thing. For those of you who know me, usually I'm jumping in a lot more, but Nick's got it down. I've learned to just let him do his thing.
Yeah. All right. So, look, here's how I got my head around pains, benefits, and challenges. And this is the way I told it to all my clients, and they all seemed to get it straight away when I taught it this way, which is why when I came to Chris to teach, to suggest we do a workshop on this, I explained this is how I describe it. And he's like, yeah. And then we've run it this way, and people do get it over and over again, straightforward. So let me walk you through it. To begin with, I want you to think about this like a doctor would. Okay. And this is why I think about it this way, because I've consulted thousands of patients, right? So I want you to think of pains as symptoms. So when you go to the doctor, they ask, what symptoms do you have, right? And there are primary and secondary symptoms that we'll go through on the spreadsheet. I want you to think of the benefit as what the person wants. Pretty straightforward. And this is key here. I want you to think of the challenges as the issues they have with other solutions that they've tried. So if you go to the doctor and you say, well, I've already been on this drug, right? Or I've already tried that particular ointment or cream, whatever it is from the pharmacy, and it was itchy, or it was too expensive, or it didn't work. These are the challenges you have. And you might think, well, I can't get over this illness or symptom or whatever I've got. That's why I've gone to someone else. Here's the challenges I've had in the past. So it's the challenge with other solutions. That's really key to get when you start thinking about how to brainstorm your challenges. But it can also be, in some instances, their own personal challenges, right? It can be that. And so sometimes maybe when you brainstorm the challenges, you might have 3 that are about other solutions and maybe some challenges that they have that are personal. Like, and I'll go through it. I won't jump ahead. I'll go through it. Okay, so I'm going to jump through to the actual spreadsheet. So I'm going to stop sharing for a sec. Where is that? Down here. We go.
And some of you will probably, like you do in the chat, start asking for this document. Going to give it to you in a moment, but we've learned that if we give some of you, and you can't help it, it's your own ADD, I'm just like this too. If we give you the document early, you tend to not pay attention to what Nick is walking you through, and you start running and jumping into the doc, and then you're not getting the clear nuances that you need to do that will help you make sure your test is valid.
100%. We know what's going on. Okay.
So it's coming, but just we're going to walk you through this first, and then we're going to give you a copy of this.
And, it's not pretty. It's not designed to be pretty. It's designed to help you organize your mind. But if you're someone who wants to get hold of this when you've got your own copy and make it even prettier, then of course, go ahead and do it. But here is what we're going to do. Now, if I make it much larger, of course, I can't see it. So is that coming through? Can people actually see this? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, good. All right. So this is the spreadsheet you are going to fill out with
Nick,
your...
there are, sorry, I was muted. There are a couple people that are asking to have it maybe a little more. So maybe
Okay.
150.
All right, we'll just scroll back and forward. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the blank version, but I'm going to give you an example. All right. And what I'm using is a medical example, because I want you to begin to land that way, but we're going to have to then transfer it once we've done that so that you can apply the thinking to your product or service, which may have nothing at all to do with like a helping profession. And it could be selling some kind of widget or some kind of e-commerce product that is for entertainment or whatever, but it can all still work. It could be a book, like a novel. We've had the authors come through who've used this, and I just love the way I'll save it for anyone here who happens to be an author. But the way you use this to help people sell books is just genius. Right. So let's look at this. Let's look at column E. It's the primary symptom, which in our terminology is also the pain. So someone has got groin pain, right? So pain in the front of their hip. They may have stiffness as well, and they may have a clicking sound when they bend over. And this is why they're going to the doctor. They've got groin pain, they've got stiffness, and they've got a click in their hip joint. When they come and see me, I can't make assumptions about why they've got groin pain or stiffness or a click in their hip joint. I have to do a range of assessments and tests and maybe an MRI or something like that to find out why they have these things. But this is why they're coming to me, right? Because they've got these things. This is what's prompted them. This is what's relevant to them, highly relevant to them, because it's their symptoms, what they're experiencing in their life, in their world. Okay, so that's the pain. Now, if you're a good doctor, you don't just stop there. You want to know, what is the impact of this pain or these symptoms that they've got? What is the impact of this? And then you find out, oh, they can't get out of their car, or they can't pick up a golf ball, or they can't sleep on their side, or there's limited walking, or they wake up at night, or they're taking pain meds and they can't sit in certain positions. So you see, this is a flow-on effect, a consequence of the primary symptoms that they've got. And again, just so everyone's clear, it is the primary symptoms that we're testing in the PVC process, right? It's the ones that they're really experiencing that worry them the most.
Which, Dr. Nick, you mean as in like either of those columns, whatever people respond to, or just the first column?
Well, I was gonna make that point actually,
Okay,
as I said
cool.
out loud.
Gotcha.
Right. So then you can actually, if you're a good doctor, you don't just stop here, because then you want to know, what other impact is this all having on them, right? Because you want to really understand what's going on in this person's life. And then you discover, well, they've got a fear about the future. Maybe they had a grandparent who started out like this and then ended up in a wheelchair or with a stick or something, whatever it is. And so they also might be angry and short-tempered. Because if you've got a sore hip, you can't sleep on your side, you're waking up and you got not much sleep, you might be angry and short-tempered, right? And this might be having further effects even at work, maybe snapping with staff or whatever it is. They could be depressed, it could be affecting their relationship. So what this is doing, it is helping you to paint a proper picture or a full picture of what's actually going on in the lives of the people who have this situation going on. So what I'm going to get you to do tonight for homework is I want you to think about, what is the primary pain, the key core thing. If your client or the person who buys your product was to be complaining about something that's going on in their life, what is it that they would be complaining about? What is it that they would like help with specifically as a symptom, right? And I'll go over some further guidelines towards the end of this. Once you've done that, then you think about what further impact this is having on them, and then even then, what further impact it's having on them. What we'll often find is that sometimes by just getting you to brainstorm this, that you might find some really important pains in these other columns to test. But also you'll see that's kind of become a bit emotional over here. It's a bit more internal. And then sometimes we reserve this for what we call our internal pain or internal conflict that people have as another benefit. But don't worry, sorry, as another pain. But don't worry too much about that. I just need you to brainstorm it. Now, another key thing that I want you to understand is this is not based on the row that you can see here, right? So I'm not saying they've got groin pain, therefore they can't get out of a car, and therefore they've got fear of the future. It does not work across the rows. Don't bother about that. Just use each column as a column to brainstorm your ideas. So don't think across the rows. Just think down the columns. Okay, so just because they got a click in the hip joint doesn't mean they can't click on their side, and that's why they're depressed. Do not do that. Just think straight down the columns.
I know those of you who are spreadsheet wizards and accountants, and bookkeepers have a really hard time with this phenomenon right now because not everything perfectly lines up. But just stay with us. It's all going to make much more sense. They don't have to go across in the rows, only down. You'll see why when it all plays out when we show you how to use it later.
Right? So these are silos. Use this to brainstorm just symptom pain one, and then think if someone has all of these things or some of these things, then just make a big old list here of what impact that would have. Don't try and make it match the row. I think I've said that enough. Okay. So once you've done that, then you're going to jump across here to H, which is the results. So what benefit or what outcome do these people want? And people with groin pain obviously want reduced pain, or another way to say that might be pain-free. They want to move more easily. They want to be able to sit, to play golf in the garden, to walk, to exercise, to sleep through the night, to stop taking meds. Again, don't make the results line up in the row with anything here. The results is just a column all by itself. Okay. Now, if you remember when I talked about the benefits, I talked about there being two benefits that we're going to mention. One is the specific benefit and one is the ultimate benefit. And this is where this comes up. These are specific benefits people want. Someone might want to move more easily, but someone might want to be able to sleep through the night. This sleeping through the night might be the most relevant, important thing to that person as a result. And moving more easily might not even be an issue at all for them. We don't know unless we test. Okay, so this is why we do test. These are specific benefits. Then there's an ultimate benefit. And the ultimate benefit, one way to get what this is say, why does someone want reduced pain? Why does someone want to move more easily? Why do they want to be able to sit, to play golf, to walk, to exercise? Or why, even if they want a couple of these benefits, why do they want those things? What's the bigger reason? And even I need to get rid of this. Here we go. Because that was too long. But it's the kind of thing that you will stick in there anyway, right? But we'll need to help you narrow it down. But the ultimate benefit is really that next step along again. Why do they want all of these benefits at all? What is the big reason? Okay. And when we take you through the pain test, you'll understand also why we need you to come up with this ultimate benefit. So this ultimate benefits column, when you do your homework tonight, shouldn't really be full of all these ultimate benefits. It really should just be, maybe you'll come up with one or two ideas, three ideas that you would like to run past us, but essentially it should be such an overarching big ultimate benefit that it covers all of these specific benefits. Now, when it comes to the challenges and obstacles, remember this is mostly about the challenges they've faced with other solutions or other things they've tried to either get a result or solve, resolve, relieve a pain. What else have they already tried, or what do they do not want to try because they've heard about it, they don't want to do it, it's too expensive, it's too toxic, they don't believe it's going to work, they have to travel too far for it, it's too inconvenient, whatever it might be, right? So that's what this is. So this column here is you thinking about your competitors, the other solutions that are on the market, and you going, what are the problems with those things? What annoying things, what etc. do people face with these other solutions? And so you can see here, I've got addictive medications or liver toxic meds or ongoing treatments. I've got to keep going back over and over and over and over again for treatment, right? Do they ever want to fix me, or they just want to keep on fleecing me, right? Expensive meds, expensive therapy, side effects, and you could list those specifically, the kinds of side effects people get, or just the fact that these other things don't work. They've tried them and it haven't worked. Right? If you remember back to the example I gave, past incompetent advice, right? So incompetent advice was the challenge. Oh, these coaches, they just give me incompetent advice. These people have probably never run a business and they're trying to advise me on mine, whatever it is. This is a challenge that we addressed, and of course it resonated the most highly. So to sum this up here, what we're testing is the pain, the benefit, and the challenge. PBC. They are the context that we're going to do, but I want you to map this whole thing out, because later on, when you write your full ad, you'll get all this rich information from further impact, etc., that you can then use to flesh out in your ads and make them even more contextually relevant. Now, just to show you back here, these columns over to the left, I do my tests. I've got this full picture of the patient who's come in, and I come up with a diagnosis of osteoarthritis of the hip joint, right? That's what I say the person has got. This is the key diagnosis, which in some of the videos that Chris talks about would call this the problem, right? The problem. It's the problem that leads to the symptoms. It's the problem that leads to the pains. And so I want you to really think about your solution that you're offering to people and the symptoms these people have. And you might go, what is the diagnosis? Why does this person, what's causing this person to have these symptoms? And therefore, that they want to get these benefits, these outcomes. But when it really comes to symptoms, this is where it's key is, what is the thing that is causing this? Is there one thing? Maybe you might list 2 or 3 things here, but essentially the thing that you're going to list here is the thing that your solution corrects, right? And then to help you split this across, I have a thing over here called contributing factors. So what are the things that may contribute to all of this, but aren't the ultimate, problem, the diagnosis? Well, they may have a genetic predisposition. Maybe they've had an injury to the hip at some point. Maybe it's their age. Maybe they're overweight. Maybe gender, something got to do with it. Maybe the way they walk has got something to do with their hip pain. Maybe they can't exercise, and that's why their OA hip joint is now more stiff. Because they can't exercise, they can't lose weight. These are all the things that contribute to this problem the person is having. But the key diagnosis that the doctor would write on the script, they wouldn't write, oh, this person is suffering from age, even though sometimes they actually kind of say that out loud, don't they? Oh, it's just age related. Thank you. That's so useful. I'm glad you told me I'm getting older.
Cop out. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. But
It's
they
also
wouldn't
a
write,
root
oh,
cause, if you want to think about it that way too.
yeah.
It's like the root cause is not necessarily something you want to start your ads with, because most people don't actually understand what the root cause might actually be. So that's why we go to the symptoms, because that's what people are experiencing the pain with, and that's the thing they want to solve. Let me give you one other quick example right now as to how this might play out. So let's say you're all here. Okay, this might be relevant for most of you. It should be. You want to generate more leads, right? And right now you might be frustrated with the fact that your symptom is you're not getting leads, or you're not getting enough leads, right? Well, see, the root cause of that might just be the lack of knowledge on how to put together a good ad, or the lack of knowledge on how to put together a good landing page, or both. But if you say something like don't know how to put a landing page together, most people are not even going to admit that to themselves or reply to it. Some might, but the real pain is what's actually happening to them. And we've tested root causes, and very few people respond to those versus the other things. So if we were to stream this out, if a root cause was not knowing how to put together a landing page, right? The diagnosis is just the diagnosis is essentially low converting landing page, right? That's actually what is happening is low converting. That's actually the thing. But the symptom, the thing that you want, or the thing that you're experiencing is lack of leads or no leads, right? Or bad leads, right? Unqualified leads, right? Those are all pains. Do you see the progression, right? So oftentimes when you try to talk to somebody about their root causes, it's only a portion of the time do they even know how to respond to you. But this is the expert's curse that a lot of people in their ads make. They assume that their prospects know more about them, that know more about their solution than they actually do. When we have to actually explicitly state what they're going through instead of having them assume. That's the whole thing with the first module in the bonus section in the course that you have access to is the whole problem solution thing, where people are always talking about features and benefits and problems and solutions, no, and then features. Whereas we're trying to talk to what people are experiencing because they respond at a higher rate to that. So there's that. Back over to you, Doctor.
And I just saw a question in here while I was looking at. What about, this is from Alexandra. So what about products that give pleasure instead of solving pain?
I was actually going to just bring that up to you. So go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, you jump right on in then.
So the thing is, we live in a dual world, right? Like if we go real meta here for a moment, we live in duality. So for every negative, there is a positive. For as above, so below, as within, so without. And so sometimes on the surface, it's not very easy. So let's take an example, right? We had someone who was, um, you know, someone who was jewelry, right? They were trying to sell jewelry, and they were like, "There's not a pain, there's no pain that people are experiencing to get motivated to want to buy jewelry." And I would say, au contraire, yes, there is. You just are not aware. It's not in your awareness yet. So, the process I would go through there, and all of you want to think about this, is you're welcome, Alexandra, because I know you asked this question. The process I go through is okay, what are the benefits that people want from that? Okay. So, if you think about jewelry, you can think about, let's say it's a necklace. So it might be given to you by your significant other, right? So it might be that it's more about, romance, or it's more about signifying something meaningful. And you can be very specific about what those meaningful moments are. And then you ask yourself, what's the opposite of those things? So if you have, uh, if it's about romance, right, and you receive a gift from your romantic partner, right, then what's the opposite of that? It's the things that don't make a relationship very good. It's the lack of romance, which turns into boring, or uh, there's many different ways to bring to life the things that you don't want. So essentially, whatever it is you want, you need to think and go, okay, well, if I didn't have this, what would that be? Okay. So you can go a lot of different ways. It's as simple as like even down to like someone once was doing a t-shirt. They had print on demand t-shirts, and they were selling like sports teams, like get your t-shirt and it's like a famous quote about their favorite sports team. And they're like, there's no pain in that. And I was like, what? Your team doesn't ever lose? Or not representing your team, or shaming your team. Like there's many different ways to go down the negative path. And a lot of you are like, Chris, why are we being negative? Why do we have to do this? Because in order for someone to be motivated to move forward, they need to understand what is at stake and what they're risking in order to gain something. And so, this mental contrast of having a negative thing they want to move away from, which motivates them to move towards something, is why it works so well. And consequently, this is the one piece of marketing that most marketers, coaches, people who advertise in general, business owners, all of them, they all make this mistake. They all try to be very positive and fluffy, and they don't want to hurt anybody or, upset anybody. They don't want to be negative. And I'm not sitting here saying that you need to be some pimp that's, manipulating people and making them feel bad about themselves. That is not what we are doing here. What we are doing is we're pointing out the things they don't want so that they move towards the things they do want. It is a law of the universe. We live in a duality world, negative and positive. Just like a magnet, there's a negative and a positive, right? And that's what makes the difference. And this is what people do. They try to be very, very positive, and they forsake and forget the negative side of it. And it's just as important to put the negative on the table, saying, this is what you're facing losing. This is what you're going to gain. It's the same thing for those of you who have kids. When you're talking about, if you do this, here's the negative consequences, right? You're attempting to get them to understand how bad it is if they take that action in the wrong way. And then oftentimes you're incentivizing them to get something out of it, what they can look forward to. It's the same concept here. So, whenever, and we've done this, like there has never been a time where someone has said to me, I can't, they've said to me, I think there's no negatives here. It's only like a luxury gift that, there's no pains. And anytime we work through it, inevitably they find two or three or four pains, and it always makes it work better every single time. So let's not play this game of I can't think of negative. It's going to take a little bit. This is the hard part, right? This is the part where learning a new language comes into play. This is a bit of a different language, but this is the language of marketing and influence and persuasion and helping move people from their current situation or the situation they didn't even know they were in that was not acceptable that you brought to their awareness into something they really want. So does that make sense, guys? Let me know in the chat if that makes sense. Yeah, so sorry, can you give an example? I can't picture a jewelry ad so your significant other doesn't feel unloved. Well, you're negating a positive there in a lot of ways. So and we'll cover that. But um, I just saw that. Uh, so can you give an example? So like what we might do with an element in the pain is um, what you'll want to do is this is the greatest tool you can use. If you go to powerthesaurus.org, you can type in a word that is a benefit, like, romance, right? So in this particular case, Alexandra, romance. And then you look at the antonyms, not the synonyms, which the synonyms are great for you to find other phrases as well. But then you look at the antonyms, which is the opposite meaning of the word you used. And it's going to give you suggestions on words that mean the opposite. Trust me, it'll change your life. Use it so many times. So there's that. All right. So let's see. Rich, I have 45 years of negativity thanks to my parents. I should do well here. Abdul, gifting jewelry is usually to impress. So yeah, that's like, usually to impress. So what's the opposite of impressing? Lower status. So how do we find words that relate to lower status? Or even at worst saying unimpressed or whatever, right? Being rejected by girls, making spouse happy after disappointment, overcoming personal insecurity, appearing wealthy. Yeah, so you're kind of mixing things, Abdullah, like negative and positive there, but obviously, like I said, going to powerthesaurus.org, not com, but org, and then clicking on the antonyms once you type that in is going to be where you will find a lot of negative type words that you can replace there, because it's not about saying, you know unlovable or not romantic or lack of, which sometimes that's kind of all we have to do, like that's the best we can do. But usually there's another level there where you can point out the negatively stated way to say of what they don't actually want. So get creative, give yourself room to be open to that much more. And you'll find that if you go do the power thesaurus thing and look at antonyms of benefits that you've got, of things that people want, of desires, that you'll find a way to say some of these things. And stretching it a bit is okay. Remember, we're talking about what people don't want and what they want, but we have to define both. Okay. Um, Alexander, yeah, right. But put that in an ad. Men love to buy this necklace to not be rejected. Well, it's a different structure, but we will work with you on that once you fill them out, if that is in fact um, what you're going to be doing. Because I know you're doing books, Alexandra. So there's a different way to do that, but that structure, that formula right there is like men get benefit without pain. Um, so it may be more like how men go from rejection to whatever they're looking for, right? You fill in the blank, romance, the date, win the girl, whatever. I mean, you could go in a lot of different directions there. So that's how I will start. But yeah, okay. Everyone's like perfect sense. That was a great tip, Power Thesaurus. It's massive. Yeah. DS, Dole Marriage, Powerful Pain. Yes, I'd say that's a good one. And remember these phrases are all two words, sometimes three. I will relent and let you do four words if they're small words for the pain. Okay, but beyond that, if the benefit and the challenge, we can't have it more words. So if the talk about offering gifts could be that the pain is the situation that demands the gift, birthday, Mother's Day, the benefit would be the way that the person receiving the gift would feel. No, and Dr. Nick is going to get into some of that here in a minute with the rest of it. And because there's a difference between external and internal, and a feeling is an internal, and there's a place for that, but we're going to teach you where that is here in a moment. Isn't it seventh grade language? Many don't understand. I mean, using those thesaurus words. Uh, I mean, that's subjective based on your market, and typically seventh plus grade language people don't understand as much, but that's very subjective as well. And we can cover more of that once we look at your elements, Marco. So, all right, back to you, Dr. Nick.
Okay, so here is why I love using the Edge browser. Because what I've just done in the right over here is you can see I basically just said Copilot list the antonyms of romance, and there they all are. Right, so it comes up with them. So yeah, absolutely, you can go to Power. It's got a first thing, Power Thesaurus, or you can just literally open up Copilot in Edge browser and boom. And then if you want to, you can do stuff like, please list these in a way someone would describe on social media.
You can also do the same thing in ChatGPT.
100%. Well, this is essentially ChatGPT in Copilot, isn't it?
Yeah. But for those who don't use Edge browser, because very few do.
I'm just saying this is why I do, because it's a great workflow. But anyway, so yeah, you can see that you can just chat along with it to help you with this. But I want you to brainstorm it all first, and then you can kind of use that straight away. All right. So I think
Back to the document.
yeah, back to the document. And I think though that I think I'm kind of finished with the document. Because what
Oh,
we need
really?
to I've kind of lost track of where I was up to. Where were we up to? I've gone through. Basically, your homework is going to be to fill out this document. Um, yeah, we've gone through the document.
So
We
the
just
guidelines everyone needs to follow for
oh no no.
pains and
Oh, sorry, back to that document. Yeah. Not this one that I'm currently sharing. Uh, that's exactly right.
sorry, I just misunderstood. So
That's right.
the dark section, Greg, that was just examples, just to kind of show you the structure of how that the test is going to go. But we're going to cover how the test actually is set up tomorrow. So today is all about making sure that we understand the definitions and get you on a path to finding your elements so that when you come back tomorrow to the live session, we're going to be looking at some of those. You guys are actually going to submit them. We'll bring some of you out, coach you through it, talk through what works, what doesn't work within the definitions of what we have. That's what we'll be doing. So you don't have to worry about that stuff in the black part of the worksheet right now because that comes later with the structural way that we set up the test.
Okay, so I wanted to just bring you back to this ad because this is another crucial thing. You'll see that this is a mobile layout, and that's because for most of you, the majority of your traffic is going to be mobile traffic. And this is, if you look at the above creative headline here, you'll see that's about as much text as you get. But there's a weird thing about this. We can't give you an exact word count because what determines whether your entire above creative headline is going to fit on here or not, or get cut off, is what causes the line breaks to happen. So if I had a word that was shorter than incompetent that fit up here in this gap, I might be able to fit more words down in here. But because I've got a large word here, it drops it down and therefore is going to change how many words I have. So this is why we don't give you an exact, word count or letter count, because it varies a little bit. But what I want you to look at down below here is look how much space you've got, even though by getting rid of the button, you have limited space. So if you have a pain that's 3 or 4 words long and a benefit that's 3 or 4 words long and a challenge that's 3 or 4 words long, when we're running our test, there'll be enough space for you to test a long benefit. sorry, a pain, there may even be enough space for you to test that along with a 3 to 4 word benefit phrase. But then you're going to get to the challenge, and guess what's not going to fit? The challenge isn't going to fit. And you're going to need the challenge to fit, because if the challenge doesn't fit, they're not going to see it. And if they don't see it, it's not going to have an impact, and therefore you lose the impact. So as you go through it, like by all means, dump what you can, just, into the columns, like do a brain dump into those columns. But when we run the test, you are absolutely going to need to shrink it down to 2 to 3 word phrases. Sometimes you might even go for 1 word that describes it. It's going to depend entirely on you, but I want to just emphasize that. I want you to feel how squashy this is, right? There's not a lot of space here. That's why we've got to get you to achieve setting as much context as you can in as fewer words as possible. And this is why I want to emphasize that right now.
Yeah, and keep in mind, everyone, like Power Thesaurus, orthosaurus.com, or even wordhippo.com, those, if you could scroll back up there for a quick minute, Doctor, it's those things can help you find other words during your brainstorming. Like incompetent, you might be able to type that in and then find a synonym that has less letters so that you have more room. So it's always worth doing a once over with some type of synonym tool. Wordhippo.com, powerthesaurus.org, or thesaurus.com. They all kind of do a similar thing, different formats, preferences. And then that allows you to find words with less letters and, even more importantly, less syllables, which is easier to read. So that, and remember, what you're looking at right now visually is the end result of our test. This is not how your first test is going to look. You're not going to be including all 4 elements in your first test. You're going to do like less than that. And we'll walk through that stuff tomorrow. I just want you to understand, because some of you who visually, like, you visually learn, so you see visual and that overrides anything we say. So we've got to kind of tell you twice, like, this is, some of you are like, I got it, I'm going to go do the test. And then you don't follow along, and then you mess it up and devalidate the results, which there are many ways to mess this up and not get really clear results. You get more muddled results. So we want to avoid you doing that, so you don't have to do the test again on the same thing, and you can move on to doing the test on other things. So with that, back to you.
All right. So down we go. We've done that.
Guys, I know we were going to be only 90 minutes here, but it looks like we might be just a little bit more for this first session today, guys, because we've got a few minutes, but yeah. So
yeah,
just a few
we're
minutes.
right. We're right at the last bit. A few guidelines to go over, and then the homework, right? So really just this page. So now, so have a bit of a refresh just with your mind for a second, because this is really important, this next section. What it will do, if you understand this, is it will save a lot of time over the next 2 weeks with questions and confusion. So that's why we've put this in here now, to kind of give you some more guidelines. And I've used the word guidelines instead of rules, because if you say rules, then people get really stuck. But these are very, very strongly suggested guidelines for you to follow. But there's always exceptions to rules, right? So here we go. The pains. When I'm wanting you to think about the pains, which we called symptoms in my example, right? Now we're going back to what we call them in this, which is pains. They are usually the objective, physical, practical things that show up in the person's life. Okay, so a business owner might be frustrated, and you might, especially people in the helping professions like coaches and psychologists, etc. I'm the same thing, primed to think about what is the person experiencing that's painful, right? And so it's easy to think the pain is frustrated, right? But a business owner might be frustrated, and this creates staff conflict. Okay, so the pain is staff conflict. This is the thing that's happening. It's objective. People can see there's this thing going on, and it's because the person inside is frustrated. But this is the practical outworking of that internal state, okay, staff conflict. An advertiser might feel stressed because the ad costs are too high. And so depending on how you're wired and how you think about things, you might be going, oh, I do feel for advertisers. We certainly do. I certainly feel for advertisers who don't know how to do this, and we love teaching the agency owners that come through how they can do so much better for their clients, because they're stressed about the fact is they're finding it so hard to get ads to work for their clients. And we resonate and empathize with that. But this is not the outward pain, is it? It's an internal state. Ad costs too high are what they're experiencing. And so the pain is high ad costs or rising ad costs. Same thing here. A wife might feel fear of losing her husband. This is an internal state because he's not paying her intimate attention, right? And so the pain here could be neglect or disregard, right? As the pain, because this is something you can, it's not, this thing is not happening. And we're describing it as neglect or disregard. Okay. So again, when you're thinking of your pains, some of you are going to fill up that that column with these people, this internal states. And I want you to think about, no, what's actually happening? What could be described about what's practically happening objectively in the person's life? Okay. So that's a key thing with pains. Now, a word about negated positives. A negated positive is when you use a negative word in front of a positive word to create a negative or to describe the pain. And we often do this instead of just describing the pain directly. Okay. For example, no attention is a negated positive because we've got no as the negative word and attention being the thing the person wants. Okay. Because the attention is the positive thing in this case, like back up to our wife and husband example. Okay. So what we could really do here, instead of saying no attention, which is a negative positive, we could say the direct thing is neglect. So back up to here, right? That's why instead of saying he's not paying her attention, well, it's neglect and disregard. This is stating it directly. And that's what we want to get you to do as best as we can. Now, yeah, that's what I want you to focus on. Sometimes you might see in some examples, we've used negated positives. But believe me, the best thing to do is to try and to state it as clearly and directly as possible, often uses fewer words, right? And I think I've said that, right? Best practice, state the pain directly instead of using a negated positive. It often uses less words and it's often less ambiguous. Okay, so that's on that. And then a final word here about internal versus external elements. The pains and benefits we are testing with the PBC test, what we want you to do is choose the external objective ones. The things that are actually objective, we can see that's the practical outworking of what's going on. Pains and benefits are external. Frustration, as the example I had, is an internal state, whereas the conflict you can see between two people is external. I know someone can have they can be conflicted inside. I'm talking about staff conflict is an external thing. Feeling tired is internal, whereas yawning is external. Okay, this is a feeling inside. And then what Chris you might hear him say a lot, is that if ever you find yourself having to describe a benefit or a pain and put the word feeling in front of it, it's adding an extra word here. And especially in this case, people don't like a complete stranger, i.e. you, showing up in their newsfeed telling them how they feel. They don't like that. Even if they don't consciously say, I don't like that, there's an internal resistance. We don't like that. And so that's why we want to state something that's objective that's happening as opposed to trying to tell someone how they feel. So if you find you're using the word feeling, find another way to say it.
Yeah.
If possible, use the external pains and benefits for your testing. That's what we're wanting to do here. Then later on, when the person has clicked see more and they've engaged and you get to add context in the way Chris teaches in code methodology for epic ads, that's where we begin to use, excuse me, the internal pains and the internal things and the benefits that they get in the ad copy.
And the internal pains are great, but the thing that we have found, guys, is I've tested this a lot. And I've even seen people have lots of blowback because of saying things in a way that actually patronizes people. What we've noticed is, newsfeed ads, social media ads, are kind of disruptive in the first place. And some people take the approach they need to be really direct to grab people's attention. But that actually just causes tons of negative feedback, which your ads will not last that long because of being too direct with people and you annoy and irritate them. But the point here is you shouldn't be trying to tell someone how they should feel. Okay. That's why we do the external things that happen, the external manifestations, the physical manifestations of things, right? There's an argument that feeling tired is obviously an internal thing because you said the word feeling. but people can be physically tired, and that is an external manifestation, right? So that's the difference is if you're trying to tell people how to feel, everybody associates different feelings with an external event. When a tragedy happens, there are those people that are very, very sad. There are others that get angry. They deal with stuff through anger, right? There are others that get depressed. There are even others that try to smile to make up for it and appear happy and try to cheer everyone else up around them when everyone else is depressed or sad or angry. And so the wild card is feelings are too personal to try to tell someone how they should feel. But if you talk about the external things that happen, then that is where you can extend an olive branch to someone and say, we agree that this negative thing happens. You can feel however you like about it, but we do agree that this external thing happens. And it's less invasive. People don't feel like you're trying to read their mind. This is the thing that I find with a lot of people who try to run ads is they're trying to mind read people and tell them how they should feel. And they think that's smart, like they're being probing and psychic or whatever, right? And I can tell you right now, there's not a lot of psychics in the world. Okay. There's probably some, right? But in all reality, trying to patronize people, telling them how they should feel is actually going to give you a smaller amount of people that respond to it because any event can cause multiple different feelings. And if you use the event instead of all the individual feelings, you cast a wider net with those people that they will respond to you. So that's the difference why we dominantly do external pains. That doesn't mean that for some of you are going to have some internal stuff, internal pains that are more relevant and proper for your offer. If you, well, we'll get there, okay? But ultimately, understand that it's not a hard rule, but we want you to do the majority of the external things that happen. We find that people respond to that better. So, yeah, there it is.
And look, as a, oh, am I? Yeah. So as an anecdote on that, let's get rid of that message popped up. So I was in a mastermind for quite a while. And by the time I left, it was like 100 grand to join that mastermind. It wasn't when I joined it, but it grew. It was a huge group of people. And the particular person who was running it just had an amazing following. And the way they could get leads was essentially by being very contrarian in their posts, organic posts, and essentially coach people and challenge them and do things like address their feelings and would get great results from their organic. Then I watched them as they hired various people and agencies to run ads, and the ads completely tanked. They did not work. What they did was cause lots and lots of very negative comments with people piling on in the comments and absolutely ripping this person. And the thing is, this person's absolutely an amazing coach. And yet I could see the ads appearing and it was like chalk and cheese compared to here's the organic post with all this really good comments underneath. And the ads were just full of rage. And it's
Now,
because,
could you translate chalk and cheese because Americans don't know that term?
well, oh, it's very simple. Which would you rather eat, chalk or cheese? And so that's how different they are, right? So chalk and cheese is just a very, very big contrast, is what I'm pointing to. So the organic posts were like the cheese, eating it all up, leaving lots of comments. I love this. People then DMing, buying, all that sort of stuff. The ads were just rage. Now, as a result of this, everyone in the group got to see that. And what was the conclusion that was made and what was then taught by the leader of this group? Ads don't work. Okay. But it's not that ads don't work. It's that ads like that don't work. Okay. So that's the distinction. Because This person was essentially using ads to coach people in the news feed, whereas the organic posts were being read by people who had already elected to follow this person. That's why it's different. Right. So anyway, just as an anecdote that I saw have a really large impact on a lot of businesses because people got it wrong.
I love
All
it. Alvaro says, if it's goat cheese, I'm taking the chalk.
right.
Alvaro's been with me longer than just about anybody here. Oh, that's great, Alvaro.
Alvaro, I've got to say, sometimes I'm looking at that salad and I'm going, is that feta or goat's cheese? Because one of them's going back to the kitchen. Oh dear. All
Mm.
right. Your homework, right? Your mission, should you choose to accept it, which of course you all will. Fill out your pains, benefits, and challenges in the spreadsheet. And I want to, just if you can, get 5. Right. So in the workshop, we allow thinking time for up to 5. So if you come and you've gone, here's my 15 benefits or 15 pains that I want to test, I want you to brainstorm, like if that happens and you're doing it, fine. But in terms of testing, because of how much the test is going to take and to go over it, we really, you only need 5 to go through. So that's the basic idea here. Because here's the 2 objectives. First, we just want to get you skilled in the whole process from A to Z all the way through, right? So it's done. And we want to get you some results. And this is the best way that we've learned how to do it. And some quick results to finish out here. I showed you this example before. Look at this spread of CTR all the way from 6.88 to 14.4. Out of 100 people who see these ads, 14 of them engage versus 6. That's 14 people in the retargeting audience as opposed to 6, right? Here's another one. Or the difference here, 8.9 down to 7.28. We're really narrowing in on the final there, so the results are closer, but still I'd prefer 8.9 than 7.28. Here's another one, still narrowing in, 6.87 down to 5.82. Here's a different one entirely. One test here, 4.56 with a spread all the way down to 2, right? So more than double, right? How would I have known the answer? I wouldn't. I had to test it. Here's another one running all the way from 4.96 down to 2.41. I wouldn't have known the difference. Another one, 4.82 down to 2.79. Here's the spread. I wouldn't have known what to go with. I think I can, oh yeah. And then this is when, well, no, I'll skip that. I'm learning, Chris. If we look at this one, you can see 4.12 all the way down to 2.98. And look at this one here. Would you rather 7% of 7 out of every 100 engaging with the ad or 2? What's that order of magnitude difference? Right? It's big,
Massive difference.
massive difference. Okay.
If all other numbers being the same, you've literally more than tripled your results. Because if you have the same amount of people looking at it and then the same amount of people clicking through and converting, literally the difference between higher confidence at 2.06 versus yes to dental at 7.02. That is the kind of power. Like, think about how you could literally cut your costs in half or more just from understanding the differences and how people respond to these things. I hope a lot of you are getting the power of what this can do for you. It's going to be cool.
It is. Now, one of the things I think I included this one here for, I can blow this up a bit bigger, is this is what might happen. You might go through in there, where's our CTRL? So we've got 5.5 all the way down to 4.42. You might have something like, oh, but there's been 5 conversions on this particular test, and the conversions are only $19 instead of up here at 48. And this is where our first order thinking, kicks in, and we go, oh, I'm going to run with this one then because I'm getting the lowest cost per result. But you're also getting the lowest CTR. And often in this testing, the person can't have then changed the rest of their ad to fit in with the test results because they're doing the test.
Yeah.
So the ad hasn't been actually written yet to reflect the results of the test that when it's finished. So just because you might get something like this, like sure, if this ad is bringing you results in at a cost per result that you're happy with, then by all means let it run. But this is not what you're going to end up going with. You're going to end up going with the winner, because the winner is going to be what you then write the ad about, which is why you'll get best results. And of course, 5 sales compared to 2, the numbers are so low as to be completely insignificant anyway. It just happens to be what's going on right now in this moment. It's not what's predicting down the track. So this is what I mean by we're not focusing on results, even though you'll see them. The key thing we'll be doing here is we're going to be going after the winning results when it comes to engagement.
A translation for you guys on that is real simple. If in this test, like Dr. Nick said, in your ad copy may have been much more congruent with that one at the bottom, so that when they click on and to see more to read, it actually talks about the same things that your elements in your above creative headline did. And so that's why it's converting so well, because your message is congruent. But during the testing process, that'll happen. But the moment you finish the test and you take that one up top that's at the 5.5 CTR all and you write your body copy specifically based on those elements in your above creative headline, then you'll get those types of conversions that the one at the bottom did, but better, usually.
We'll go through these real quick. 3.6 down to 1.73. 3.48 down to 2.26, 4.46, 3.69, 2.92, 2.11, because we in this, by the time we got here, it's so well tested that that the spread isn't that big, but that's what you'll see happen as we do the test as well. But still, I want to go with what's getting me the highest numbers. There's another one. It was a brand new course, brand new ad account for executives for AI. We ended up getting 3.3 down to 0.95. So again, the overall numbers don't look big, but the percentage difference here, it's 3 times the difference. And we wouldn't have known unless we'd run the test. And this actually ended up coming out positive out of the gate from a profit point of view for the first time this ever launched. And again, more examples, 4.99 all the way down to 1.4. So what's that? I mean, it's over 4, right? Or around 4, something like that. It's a huge difference. I think that's it, right? So anyway, so your homework is actually this. Choose or you've got your product or service you're working with, obviously. Fill out the pains, benefits, ultimate benefits, and challenges. Fill out that spreadsheet. If it feels like you need to think about a common bond, we can talk about that tomorrow. But that is essentially it for today. You've got the spreadsheet. You've got the homework to do. Tomorrow, we're going to walk you through how to actually set up your first test. We'll go through and we'll bring a few of you out to actually kind of brainstorm and hot seat you through choosing and how to shorten any pains you've got and how to set up the test. So those of you who want to participate in that and come live with us, you can do that. The rest of you will learn from those people doing that anyway. And of course, the key thing we want you to do is tomorrow is you'll be able to take a screenshot of the panes and the test you're going to run. You'll be able to put it up in the group and we'll answer it and give you that feedback. We don't want you just running off blind and doing the test. We're here to provide you feedback to ensure that you're going to get the best possible outcome that you can get from going through this process. So we're here to help you. And this isn't just a course where you just follow along. We want you to engage with us so we can give you feedback. And I think that about wraps it up for me.
So I put a couple links in there. I've got the link to the Facebook group, although Alexandra is telling me the link is still not working. Alexandra, I thought I let you into the group already. That might be why it's not working for you. And also up top here, just a little bit more up, it's got the spreadsheet in there that you click on and you'll make a copy of it. As long as you have a Google account, then you can make a copy, a fresh copy, and you can start working from that. Yeah. Peter, thank you. Yeah. Facebook link just takes me to Facebook, not to a group. I don't know why it's doing that. It literally told me that there's like 16 people left to be able to click that link. Okay, so Andrew, same for you. Oh, okay, same for me. Just takes me to Facebook. Um, yeah, and guys, by the way, for one, both of these links are in your course. Okay, so when you log into codemethodology.com and you go to the course Message Mapping Workshop, October 2024, in the first module, first lesson, there is a link to the Facebook group. And of course, some of you are having difficulties, and this is Facebook being Facebook. I'm going to have to invite you with your email address. So I've got a handful of you here. It says pending invite, David Smith. Okay, cool. I just haven't checked it while we've been on the call here. Um, and your link, once we get this video up, uh, the first module lesson of day one is going to have another link to your uh, element testing spreadsheet, but it's also in here. All you have to do is click it. Here, it's here in the chat before we get out of here for today. Yeah, Steven just took me to Facebook as well. Yeah, I don't know why they're doing this way. This is weird, but I'm going to have to just I tried to do it earlier, but I have to individually do it for every person instead of being able to like throw in a line of CSV files to get you in there. So we'll do that. I'll work through getting you guys invited. We've got a handful of you in there already, like 12 or 13 of you that came through. So hopefully that should work. And got a job. Okay, so we'll see you, Rich. All right, guys. So, like you said, if you're stuck, we're monitoring the Facebook group even today. Okay. And once you finish, then with your brainstorming, just go ahead, if some of you are not going to want to come out publicly, which is fine. You can always post it in the group. And there will be a handful of you that obviously want to come out and we'll just coach you live here tomorrow on this. So you'll get I'll send you guys all a quick email when the recording of this video is uploaded so that you can go there and you'll be able to watch this. It'll have links to the spreadsheet, and I'll keep doing all I can to get you into the group here today, right away after this call. Okay. Um, and for those who have requested access, I will let you in. So, Stephen, is the Facebook group different or the same as Conversion Coders? They are two different groups. Conversion Coders is our catch-all group. If you've bought any product of ours, you get over there, mostly for people who come in with our 5-dimensional ad product. The Message Mapping Workshop group is specifically for people who are doing message mapping. Because if people try to post their PBC stuff and everything in the Conversion Coder group, the majority of them do not know what you're talking about and can't help you. And they're just confused by it. So we do have two separate groups. You're welcome to join both. And but the Message Mapping Workshop group is the one we will be working from for this group. I've enjoyed today. We've got a good group of people out. We're looking forward to this one. And if it all doesn't make sense yet, don't worry. It unfolds as we go. You don't need to understand every single piece of it right now. That's why we're with you daily, to ensure that you do it. And by the end of it, it's going to make a lot more sense than it does now. So,
And you can all do it. It's all doable, 100%.
yeah, we've had about 130 different people come through this workshop.
Yep.
Yeah. David, I just approved you, by the way. Yeah. So, I mean, and you guys have seen the testimonials on the page. You've seen what people have talked about. Like, in week 2, we will be opening up slots for you guys to do your one-on-one feedback call where we can get your feedback and then also debrief your results. And Dr. Nick will be able to give you any unique recommendations that are unique to your offer and what your test results gave you. And so don't worry about that. We'll be dealing with that in week 2. So right now, as Dr. Nick has said, your homework, work on that sheet, see if you can at least get the 5. I know some of you are overachievers and you're going to show up tomorrow with 12 different elements in every column. I get it. But we're going to be like narrowing it down to the top 5 to 8 for each test. So just know that. Top 5, top 5, top 5. Yeah. Some of you are a little OCD, so you can't help it but do like round numbers like 6 or 8 or something, right? So do we get to see the doc presented? The doc, uh,
Me, the doc, or no?
Yeah, yeah, the document. That's the one thing I didn't put in there. I gave you guys the sheet, but the document I can give to you guys right now as well. Let me just grab that.
Just make sure it's a
Yeah. Anyone
copy,
with the
not
link,
a
so yeah, and then copy. Yeah. So I'm doing that. I'm putting that in here right now. You'll be able to just make a copy of this, just like you did with the element testing sheet. So that is the Google Doc that Dr. Nick walked you through today. So you can go through it again if you like for any clarity and clarification and do the best you can. And sometimes, some of your pains might be internal. It's not the end of the world. We've seen those work well at times, not on the whole, but at times. And so, do what feels right. And we'll see you tomorrow. Take care,
peace out.
everyone. Peace
Bye.
out. Bye.